Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this video where I will debate a classic TI argument, which is which tier 0 technology is the best. And this discussion revolves around two technologies, the green and the yellow. There is a lot of debate whether Sarween tools is superior or is it neural motivator that wins out. And so for beginners, both of these techs are pretty solid. Sarween tools allows you to get a +1 resource every time you build, and whereas Neural Motivator grants you an extra action card during the status phase each round. Now, if we just look at this on paper, Neural Motivator, or one action card rather, is worth 1.5 trade goods. And this is calculated because from the secondary of politics, you spend one command counter. One command counter is worth 3 influence, which is worth 3 trade goods. And with that, you draw 2 action cards. So 2 action cards is worth 3 trade goods. Therefore, getting 1 additional action card is worth 1.5 trade goods. Sarween tools, on the other hand, lets you essentially gives you like 1 trade good each time you produce. So if you only produce once per round, you get a benefit of 1 trade good here, whereas Neural Motivator gives you a benefit of 1.5 trade goods worth of value. If you build twice per turn though, then in terms of value, Sarween tools wins out. You get 2 trade goods against 1.5. Now ultimately, which one of these two technologies you research first is going to be very much dependent on the race you are playing. In some circumstances, you may want to divert away from sort of a recommended tech path for your specific race in order to grab one of these. And we'll get to that in a second, but for now, I've got all the race sheets here, and for each one, I'm going to place either here to say that they should probably research Neural Motivator first, or on this side to say that they should probably grab Sarween tools first. And maybe I'll put a pile in the middle or something to say it could be either. Okay, and I've given myself a tough one to start with, the Arborec. Well, tough in the sense that, you know, in terms of their technologies, their faction-specific technologies, they lean into green. But Sarween tools is just so incredibly potent with this race that you almost always want to grab Sarween tools first, just so that you can get the free infantry every time you move out, or the free fighters, whatever you prefer. So like 9 times out of 10 you are going to want to grab Sarween tools first with Arborec, but you know, there could be some circumstance where you want to rush green, but it's going here. You pretty much always want to grab Sarween tools first. Embers of Muat, okay, yeah, out of these two you want to grab Sarween tools first. It just synergizes on you need to grab it in order to grab your prototype Wall Sign 2 anyway. So it's just a no-brainer, this one, really. Although, like, this race does benefit from potentially going into Cruiser 2 as well. So if you do opt to take that path, then there is argument that you could take Neural Motivator as well. But most of the time I play these guys, I do go for Sarween tools. So you just got to go here. So we're 2-0 at the moment. Okay, you start with tribes, you already start with Neural Motivator. So I guess in this case, you've already got Neural Motivator anyway, so I'm just going to put it here. Or should I just disregard it because you already start with one and then it's invalid, the argument's invalidated. Yeah, okay, I'll just discard this one, stuff it. But that means I'm going to have to disregard a whole bunch of races because there's a whole bunch that start with either Neural Motivator or Sarween tools. I guess it's fine, whatever. Mentak already starts with Sarween, so yeah, okay, whatever. Ghosts of Krios. Yeah, these guys are, it's a bit awkward. This, yeah. Well, they want to go up blue, and they kind of want to go up a little bit of red as well. I'm going to say Sarween tools, because you're inclined to go up blue, and then with Sarween tools, you set up for Dreadnought 2, which is arguably the best unit upgrade in the game. Yeah. We'll go Sarween tools for this. It's a bit more debatable. You could go green and go in the fighter too. I mean, it's feasible as well. Yeah, anyway. Barony? Yeah, Sarween tools. Pretty sure you want Sarween tools first for these guys. Set you up to get your Dreadnought 2, your Dread Race. Just makes total sense to go Sarween tools. You already start with Neural Motivator, just get rid of that. Yeah, okay, get rid of that. Tonals. Okay, this is an interesting one. So, tonals, fine. I think Neural Motivator finally gets a point out on Sarween tools here. With the the Zacha Kingdom, I don't even know how to pronounce these guys. I'm just calling them turtles. With the turtles, you already start with a yellow technology anyway. And instinct training is a pretty strong tech. So in this case, I don't think it's worth going through yellow and grabbing their signature yellow tech, which I can't even remember. Nullification field, that's it. In this case, if I was playing these guys, I would grab Neural Motivators before Sarween tools. The Yunbra, okay, they start with Sarween tools. Now the Collective starts with both, oh my god. Okay, Sardak Nor. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, I am going to lean towards Sarween tools with Sardak Nor, and the reason for this is it helps you towards your Super Dreadnought 2, which is just ridiculously good. Also, Sardak Nor in general wants to be spamming lots of units on the board anyway, so they are quite likely to put a forward space dock and therefore be producing multiple rounds of Sarween tools. So I think Sarween tools is a good shout here. Emirates of a card slots for Sarween tools. Necrovirus, don't really get a say. Although, let's just assume that you have the choice of attacking two different people, or you have a choice of attacking someone early game. The Nalu Collective, let's just go with that. Or even the universities. So yeah, you have a choice. You attack them, and you can choose to either take Neural Motivator or Sarween tools. I think Sarween tools again, to be honest, because again, Necrovirus is going to be getting into a lot of fights. They want to be producing lots of plastic on the board to facilitate those fights and therefore allow them to steal even more technology. So Sarween tools is probably what I would pick first with Necro as well. Okay, Clan of Sar. So you start blue. You probably want Sarween tools to get into Dreadnought 2, but equally, I can see the argument of getting Fighter 2 and protecting your floating factories in that manner as well. Sarween tools also sets you up to upgrade into Floating Factory 2 though. I am going to say Sarween tools because you you're similar to the Arborec in that, you know, you're going to be moving and producing, and you're probably going to be doing that multiple times around once you get your second and third space docks. So yeah, Sarween tools. Oh dear, I've only got one race that's on your motivator. We've only got 2 races to go. Winner! Winner, winner, winner! Yeah, okay. Sarween tools. If you're going to pick one of these 2, you should pick Sarween tools. These guys don't start with much plastic on board. They need more plastic on the board. Their 2 yellow tech is pretty bonkers crazy as well, being able to reverse the influence and resource value of a planet, especially if that planet happens to be Metacal Rex. The only argument to take Neural Motivator beforehand is if you want to play Gambler and maybe try and hope you get a flank speed early on in order to, you know, quickly secure Mechatol Rex on your second round or whatever. But I would be taking Sarween tools with the winning. And final, Federation starts with Neural Motivator, doesn't it? Okay, well that's basically it for all the races. All the races that don't start with Sarween tools or Neural Motivator. And in the end, we've only got 1 race with Neural Motivator, and we have a good smashing amount of 3, 6, 7 races on Sarween tools. So in terms of depending on the races you play, it's looking very much likely that Sarween tools is the superior tech, despite the fact that if you use each of these techs once per round, Neural Motivator has inherently more value. But how do these 2 techs stack up in the sort of mid to late game? Well, both of these techs lose value as the game progresses, in the sense that once you have, or assuming your game's going quite well, once you have a handful of action cards, and once you have plenty of resources with your planets, you know, saving 1 resource with Sarween tools becomes pretty negligible. Likewise, you don't really need to be drawing more action cards if you've already got a hand of like 6 or 7 anyway. A couple of exceptions. Neural Motivator can keep you ticking over if you are unfortunate to be hit by a public execution agenda or a couple of the other agendas which can cause you to discard your action cards. So that can keep you ticking over then. Also, if you happen to have the Spy Network secret objective, which requires you to discard 5 action cards, then picking this up is definitely going to help you sustain your action cards throughout the game. Sarween tools, although you will be producing more and more as the game progresses, you know, you quite likely by the mid game you will have a second space dock out. Maybe not, depends. But or you'll be producing twice with Warfare. So the inherent value of Sarween tools trumps Neural Motivator from that perspective as well. But yeah, as the game progresses, both of these techs lose value. I think Sarween tools generally has a slight edge over Neural Motivator. Having said that, though, being able to even just sort of shuffle through action cards, so drawing and then discarding if your hand's already at 7, being able to just see more action cards towards the mid to late game is probably going to be more beneficial than saving a resource each time you produce. I actually think Neural Motivator wins out in the late game over Sarween tools. I think early game, Sarween tool, early to mid game. Well, mid game maybe. Okay, fine. Early game Sarween tools I think is superior. Mid game I think it depends on circumstances. I think both of these have similar value in the mid game. But towards the end game, you know, action cards can make or break games. There are some ridiculously powerful ones in the action deck. And just being able to see more each round it could swing the battle. It could swing the game in your favor. So towards the end game, Neural Motivator is probably superior to Sarween tools. Alright, final verdict. Overall, what do I think is better? Given everything that we've just discussed. Alright, I am going to go with Sarween tools. Most racers, as discussed earlier, will probably tend to pick Sarween tools before Neural Motivator. Being able to better facilitate your early game is super important in Twilight Imperium. If you have a rough early game, it can be very difficult to catch up later on. And Sarween tools helps you get more plastic on the board, and the more plastic you have on board, the less likely people are going to want to mess with you. People are less likely to mess with you if you have more plastic on board rather than if you have a handful of action cards. Because action cards are dicey, they're unpredictable. You could have some broken ones like Courageous to the End or Experimental Battle Station. Or you could have 7 trash action cards. It can happen. Whereas with Sarween tools, you have consistency on your side. Producing that extra plastic on the board each and every round, that racks up, and that's something that people can visibly see on the board. People aren't going to mess with you if you have like a fleet of a carrier and 4 fighters. Not as easily as if you just had like a carrier and 1 fighter with a bunch of action cards. That sort of thing is what I'm trying to get at. So all in all, everything considered, I believe Sarween tools wins out over Neural Motivator. And my best friend will be very happy with that conclusion because he absolutely adores Sarween tools. Okay, a fun little extra for this episode. I want to talk about what I think is the best non-faction technology in general. So I've got the deck here. I'll do a couple because I'll take into consideration the best technology irrespective of requirements, and then maybe just the best technology overall. Okay, so if we ignore how difficult it is to actually get the technology, then I think, well, it's quite tricky actually. I am going to lean, it depends on your race as well, but I think I'm going to go with lightweight deflectors as the best overall tech in the game if you ignore all restrictions, if you ignoring the fact that you need 3 propulsion tech as a requirement. It was quite hard. There was a couple other techs that I had in mind that were also really good. Assault cannon comes to mind actually, but it's only if assault cannon's pretty good. I like assault cannon personally. But no, I think lightweight deflector just wins out here. Just being able to, especially if you're a mobile race. Like I said, this is going to be dependent on the race you play. But just being able to ghost through enemy ships to attack in unexpected places is really, really strong and makes you incredibly threatening on the table once you research this technology. Lightwave deflector is one of those techs that when someone announces that they've researched it, alarm bells should be ringing in your head, especially if you're their neighbor or anything of that nature. Like a siren should be going off, being like, okay, I need to be careful now because my fighter screens or whatever systems you blockaded, you're no longer safe once this technology has been researched by someone. I should do best unit upgrade technology overall is probably Dreadnought 2. Dreadnought 2 is just solid. very, very solid technology. The two movement is huge, and being immune to direct hit is also very significant. There's 4 direct hits in the deck, and yeah, being immune to those just means you're free to soak hits with your sustained damage and protect your other ships in the process. So best, what do you call it? Upgrade regular technology and best unit upgrade technology, in my opinion. But this is not taken into consideration any requirements. If we take requirements into consideration, then what would I say? Probably gravity drive, to be honest. Gravity drive is solid. Movement is a really big deal in Twilight Imperium. Being able to, and in the early game, often enough you'll be moving like one non-fighter ship anyway. And being able to grant that ship an additional +1 movement can really make the difference in being able to reach, a desirable system or not. So all things considered, I think gravity drive is the best, regular technology in the game. I think that's about it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Mission complete. Signing out.